The destruction and abandonment of palaces and settlements across the Aegean came to be known as Greece's Dark Ages. An era that lasted around 300 years, from 1100 to 800 BC. Historians traditionally dismiss this as a period of obscurity, an interruption in the otherwise glorious progress of Greek history. The population plummeted by 3/4. Those who were left were forced to scratch out an existence. The causes of the catastrophe remain a mystery. Was it environmental disaster, plague, famine, earthquake, cataclysmic war, deadly internal power struggles, or perhaps a perfect storm of all of them? Whatever it was, Mycenae and other kingdoms across the Mediterranean rapidly fell apart, ushering in a new age that was characterized by hardship, pain, and grief. The accepted history was that the visual arts almost disappeared during the Dark Ages. Certainly one casualty was the human figure, which vanished from Greek art for several centuries. Yet in recent years, the idea of a lengthy interruption in Greek art and culture has been challenged. Just off the eastern coast of the Greek mainland lies the island of Euboea. Here, evidence is only now emerging that life in the so-called Dark Ages wasn't quite as dark as has been thought. The site is known today as Lefkandi. For 3,000 years, there was nothing here but a gigantic mound. When they started digging, though, they uncovered the remains of a vast building. It was 45 meters in length. It had a thatched roof, and it was surrounded by a wooden colonnade, preceding the architecture of Greek temples by an astonishing 2 centuries at least. But the most exciting discovery of all was hidden even deeper. They discovered the cremated remains of a man in his 40s and the skeleton of a younger woman. Among the grave goods were fine items of jewelry, including a Babylonian necklace that at the time was already 1,000 years old. And nearby, they came across a remarkable object dating from the 10th century BC that pointed the way to an emergent new vision for Greek art. This impish little fellow is a centaur, a fantastical creature, half man, half horse, potentially an unruly being on the fringes of civilization. And to our eyes, he looks initially like a toy, a plaything, a My Little Centaur for the ancient world. But it would be doing him a disservice to belittle him like that, because he offers us the first known depiction of mythology in Greek sculpture. He doesn't quite have the impact of the Lion Gate at Mycenae or the so-called Mask of Agamemnon, but this pixie-ish creature offers a blueprint for the development of Greek art over the next few centuries, because it combines a love of geometric pattern with a passion for mythology. At their studio in Athens, Vicky Heather-Raleigh and her colleagues have spent years learning how to faithfully reproduce the black figure technique. First, decorative bands are painted on to show where the design should be drawn. Then Vicky begins to mark out the design on the pot.
Η πρώτο είναι η τοποθέτηση.
Can I see what it's doing? Right, so it's a very clever way of transferring the design.
Τώρα, με ένα διαβήτη σχεδιάζω τις ασπίδες και πιάνω το κέντρο. Δηλαδή, το τοποθετώ το σχέδιό μου στο κέντρο και φτιάχνοντας με το διαβήτη τους κύκλους της ασπίδας, έχω οριοθετήσει πού ακριβώς θα πέσουν και οι φιγούρες μου.
Do you think that ancient artists would use tools like this, or was it all freehand?
Αποκλείεται να το κάνανε με το χέρι.
The next stage is for Vicky to paint on the figures using a watered-down clay. You're applying a colour to the pot which looks kind of orangey red. So how does it turn black?
Είναι η άργυλος η άψητη. Όταν λοιπόν ψηθεί, λόγω των οξυδίων του σιδήρου, θα μαυρίσει και θα έχει το αποτέλεσμα του μελανόμορφου αγγείου.
What was new about Black Figure was the use of a sharp point to scratch in the detail, a technique learnt from Middle Eastern metalworkers. I think I've got a basic handle on the technique, and I know that I've got down here, well, this is a pot you've prepared already, which is the same design, but it's once it's been fired. So it's a total transformation, obviously.
Έτσι είναι αυτό. Αυτή είναι μια ολοκληρωμένη παράσταση, μελανόμορφη, με τα επίθετά της χρώματα, με το χαραγματάκι της, με ένα αιχμηρό αντικείμενο. Αυτό είναι.
The Greek Revolution wasn't confined to the sculptor's studio. It would become part of daily Greek life. And find expression in a much lowlier, more everyday art form. In fact, it may even have started here with pots. Pots, like all of these vases, drinking cups and storage jars, they weren't really high-status objects in antiquity, unlike sculptures. A simply decorated pot might have cost the equivalent of 2 or 3 days' wages in the 6th century. But the funny thing is that the highly competitive artists who made and decorated these pots may have been in the vanguard of the Greek Revolution, blazing a trail for the sculptors who followed. Since the 7th century BC, there had been a standard way of decorating pots. The scene was painted on in clay that when fired turned black. Then details were cut into it with a sharp instrument. This was known as Black Figure. It's a style that's bold, linear, graphic. But then, as with bronze, new developments in technique offered exciting possibilities. Around 530 BC, one Athenian vase painter decided to try something different, to become experimental. This is one of his pots, and on one side there's a scene in the straightforward Black Figure style, showing Ajax and Achilles silhouetted in black against a red background as they're playing dice. But if you turn the pot around, then there's another scene on the other side of it, this time a different moment from mythology, showing Heracles battling a lion. But the technique is entirely new. The artist here has created the figures using the red, and then the background has become black. We don't know for sure what inspired this artist to try out this new technique. It's possible that he just wanted to stand out from his rivals. But a bilingual pot, as this is known, would have been a way of demonstrating that technique for customers. And the new technique would liberate vase painting to new levels of sophistication. With red figure vases, the details of the image are painted on, not scratched on with a metal point. Watching one being made before it's fired, you can see how delicate and expressive the artist can be. This technique gives her a new painterly freedom, particularly when describing the human figure. She's embellished the figures with a fine brush. Now she's filling in the background. That watered-down clay will turn black when fired in a kiln. She adds details. This man's curly ringlets, or slender, curving strokes to suggest the muscles on this warrior's leg. Here it is once it's been fired. It shows Greek warriors slaughtering the citizens of Troy. That's blood on their bodies. But look too at the way that this sleeve falls on this man's arm. It's transparent, almost like gauze. And compared to the flat blocks of black figure painting, the effect is much more realistic, almost three-dimensional. This new freedom of technique allowed artists to expand their subjects. And it's exactly about this time that artists begin to experiment. Not just the old heroic stories from mythology, but now scenes of everyday life. Even scenes of drunken debauchery in honor of the wine god Dionysus. A gathering otherwise known as a symposium. Now, if a symposium to you suggests earnest philosophers debating the point of existence, forget it. A symposium was a male drinking session. Nothing brought out the darker side of the Greek imagination like the symposium. By day, Apollo guided the Greeks, presiding over everything that was orderly and rational. But by night, it was the turn of Dionysus and the irrational. With booze came the promise of sex. And to help get the party going, Greek artists developed a racy new art form. The symposium pot. Symposium pots, they were a real gift for artists because they offered endless creative possibilities for all sorts of ambiguity, role-playing, puns, double meaning, mischief, essentially. But there was a catch. You had to drink to the bottom of the bowl to discover what was painted there. And of course, I've now obscured entirely the painting that's at the bottom of the pot, but I'll give it a go. It does encourage quite big gulps because it's a very wide bowl. And I think there is an important point here. Too often we look at art in a detached way, and it's important to remember that ancient artworks, objects like these, they were made for purpose. They had a function. So to really understand them, arguably, you have to try and use them like this. Maybe that's part of the point of these works of art. They are meant to be a surprise. So you come into the room, you lie down your couch, you're handed one of these bowls, it's full of liquid, and you get down to the bottom. And by the time you have, it's like looking into a mirror, you see a reflection. And what you're looking at is your Dionysiac self, writ large, kind of literally.
So here the picture is, the painting at the bottom, a satyr with a large erection, a horse's tail bubbling off to one side, and he has amorous desires, clearly. He's chasing a woman, a Maenad, I guess, a follower of Dionysus, because she's wearing a panther skin and not much else. And she's got this rather large stick, looks like a kind of mop. I think it's known as a thyrsus, which she's using to tickle the satyr. And although she's resisting, it's still a bit of a come-on. So clearly the whole mood evoked by this is that there's going to be a happy ending to the evening.
The United States closed down the capital and up stakes and sort of moves to Texas and says, this is the new capital here. You can imagine what would happen to the people in D.C. And it would be the same for the people in Luxor, who suddenly everyone loses their jobs, their capital is gone, and then they have to follow Akhenaten off to a new place.
The city itself was equally groundbreaking. Amarna would cover 24 square miles, running 8 miles along the east side of the Nile and 3 miles inland. Its layout would radiate from the royal tomb like sun rays emanating from the pharaoh's spirit. A wide royal road would run parallel to the river, linking the central city to the palaces and temples of the pharaoh.
He went to a place that no one ever touched, a completely clean place, and established his town. And this is why it's unique. Aton was maybe the first and the most important planned.
Started to take his religion more and more seriously, and thus avoided any of the responsibilities of state. He just ignored what was going on beyond the boundaries of his city. So Egypt's empire shrank because a lot of the other people in the powers of the Near East started eating away.
Working together, working all over these colossal pieces. And we know this from representations in the tomb of Rekhmira, which shows the temple workshops. Sculptors are at work on larger than life-size three-dimensional statuary, showing them working on the face, working on the shoulders, working on the arms, working on the body and the legs. And out of this communal...
My lady lies in bed.
For 100 years, the same family dynasty has ruled the empire. Now it's the turn of the famously eccentric Nero. An emperor who spent more time among his people than they realized.
You know who I am?
You're a plagiarist and an insult to music.
Pathetic. I had no idea. I'm sorry.
Tigellinus. He says he's sorry. I don't think that's enough. What do you think?
I think it's not enough.
Aphonius Tigellinus, head of Rome's security force.
How wonderful!
Poppaea Sabina, Nero's second wife. He killed his first.
Don't hit him! He's the emperor!
And the man himself. Nero had never been a normal emperor, but this was nothing to what lay ahead. This is the story of what happened when the most powerful man on earth lost his mind and brought the empire to the brink of destruction.
I am Nero, Claudius Caesar, Augustus Germanicus. And we are not some shanty town that's going to apologetically shuffle off downstream. We are Rome. We will build it, and build it fast. A new city. A Rome worthy of Rome. And this will not burn down. It'll be made of marble and stone, all of it. By building to one plan, The city will have cohesion and purpose. Public spaces for all Romans. Wide roads, forums, gardens, theatres, temples, and wherever anyone goes in this city, they will be surrounded by art. Beauty of art. We are going nowhere.
It's a wonderful feeling. Your ancestors proud.
I think in this room a few moments ago, Rome was saved.
You know, years ago, your father falsely accused me of adultery, exiled me, ruined my name. But he was emperor. Denying it would have cost me my life. I know what it is to be the enemy of an emperor, Nero. I'm too old to be one again.
You'll never be my enemy.
I respectfully ask to be permitted to retire from your service. My counsel is clearly...
No! I won't allow it.
Very well. Then I must regretfully inform you that due to illness, I must spend more time in the country and will be unable to attend to you as in the past. The temples were sacrilege.
You moaning old man.
We all of us need the protection of the gods, Nero.
Get out of my sight! I am emperor! I don't need protection from the gods! The gods need protection from me! Hear me? The gods need protection from me!
Seneca, I believe Nero will not live much longer. In that event, it is felt that Piso would be the best man to replace him, and I have been sent to assess your support.
Piso? Or for Nero's misfortune?
Both. Our numbers are growing.
So, why do you need an old man like me? Give your plans a spurious air of respectability? I was expecting you, or someone like you.
Will you support us?
Nero has no right to ride roughshod over everything Rome stands for. That's why I'm out here. And it's why I'll not tell him about this conversation. But I'm not about to murder the man I love. Not for you. Not for anyone.
There's just one more. One more. Seneca. Your trusted Seneca.
So here it is. My end.